So welcome back, friends. It's Megan from A Seasonal Abode. I garden here in Zone 6A, Southern Ontario, Canada. And this week I thought I would make a video detailing the process of taking some plants that are growing under the grow lights through the hardening off process so that we can get them planted outside. So I'm going to be hardening off my cool hardy annuals. As you'll remember, I took you through a tour of what I have growing. I start my cool hardy annuals so that I can plant them out 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost. So 12 to 16 weeks before my last frost is when I start my cool hardy annuals, and then 6 to 8 weeks after that is when I harden them off and plant them outdoors. And so when the time that the last frost hits, they will already be growing lovely. They like cool temperatures, and so I'm going to take you along through that process. Usually the hardening off process takes about 7 days for me. It could take 10 to 14 ideally. I usually forget about them, and it usually ends up only being 7 days. So this is going to be a video in which I kind of do a time lapse detailing the process of hardening off some plants. Once those plants are out of my basement, I can then start my warm season annuals for my cut flower garden. So I'll take you along for that as well. Some people have been asking for an update on my ranunculus. So in my last video, I talked about how we're supposed to be getting a cold snap. Well, that cold snap has lasted for well over a week, and my ranunculus are doing fine. They are underneath the frost cloth, but yeah, they haven't seen the light of the sun, or they haven't had the rain naturally fall on them. So hopefully in the next 5 to 7 days, it's going to be warm enough that I can take off the frost cloth during the day and just replace it on the cooler nights. Also, some exciting news. We had our first flower bloom this week. So we have some Siberian squirrel planted in my south-facing garden here, and it's always super exciting when the first bloom comes. And then lastly, I want to show you, I took you along in a few weeks back talking about the design for my sunrise garden. So I'm planning on adding on to my sunrise garden this year. I started the process last fall. I'll link that video up above. Yesterday I started edging the bed in the border. I need to finalize my outline. It's not the way I'd like to see it right now. And now is the perfect time to do it, right before the spring rains come and those grass and those weeds really take root and start growing into my no-dig bed. So I'd like to edge that today, finish the edging today, so that when the spring rains come, I don't have to worry about them growing into my garden. It's going to make it more difficult to edge later. So we're going to be racing the rain today, and we're going to be hardening off those cool hardy annuals. I hope you enjoy this video, friends, and that you'll consider subscribing. Now let's get to the garden. So just really quickly before I bring you over to the ranunculus, I wanted to show you something. If you'll remember, last fall we planted together some of the Queen of the Night tulips and some apricot pride, as well as some Mount Hood daffodils, and they are all peeking out of the ground. This is super exciting. I can't wait to see this display. It is going to be so fun. Okay, so the temperatures are definitely above freezing right now. So I am going to take this frost cloth off. Let me just set you down for a minute. We're going to see how this ranunculus looks. I used a bazillion of these pegs because I was so nervous about losing my ranunculus in the cold snap, because it got really, actually I think it felt like minus 13 last night. It was definitely down to minus 9. That's a little cold. So here are my ranunculus. They are looking very beautiful. I actually ended up buying these hoops here from Dollerama, actually. I think they're $5. I love using them for my lettuce in the summer. It keeps the bugs off the plants. But anyways, I put the hoops over top of my ranunculus, and then I put the frost cloth on top of the hoops so that it wasn't touching my ranunculus. It's a nice, affordable, easy thing to do if you're not set up to have a big hoop or greenhouse above your raised bed. It's a $10 solution to protecting your plants. Okay, so it's day one of hardening off. I have this shelf set up at the front of my shop just outside the large doors. And today I am just going to give my plants 1 hour of shade. So they're exposed to the outdoor temperatures, but they are not in the full sun. They're getting some wind from the outside. I'm going to set my timer for 1 hour. Once that hour is done, I'm going to close this door and I'm just going to let my plants hang out in here until tomorrow morning. Okay, so it is day 2 of the hardening off process. Yesterday we allowed our plants to have the wind and to have the temperature of the outdoors without having the full sun. So they were in the shade for 1 to 2 hours. Now on day 2 today, I'm going to repeat that process and I'm going to be opening the big bay door. And instead of 2 hours, I'm going to be allowing my plants to have 4 hours of shade. Once they've received 4 hours of shade, I'm going to close the door again until tomorrow. So it is day 3 of the hardening off process. And day 3, what we're going for is we are going to open the door again and we are going to be exposing our plants to 6 hours of the temperature outdoors and to the wind. But what's different between day 2 and day 3 is that on day 3, we are going to allow our plants to have dappled sun and shade. So they can be in the sun a little bit, they can be in the shade a little bit, but our goal is to slowly transition them to the outside. So we're going to give them 6 hours. Okay, so it is day 4 of the hardening off process, and the sun is quite a bit higher than my shop. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scoot this lightweight shelving unit closer to the bay door, and then I'm going to open the door, and instead of 6 hours dappled sun and shade like we had yesterday, today our goal is 8 hours. So every day we are increasing the amount of light exposure to the wind and the temperature by 2 hours. Okay, welcome back. It is day 5 of the hardening off process. I did want to say normally when people harden plants off, they are moving their plants in and out of from inside to the outdoors. I am very thankful to have the shop in which there's a little bit of protection for the plants. They're cool hardy. I'm not too worried about them freezing. But usually if you don't have a shop like this, you could just bring your plants. I've done it from my living room to my front porch many, many years. So you just take your plants every morning from the indoors and you set them on the front porch. So for day 5 of the hardening off process, I'm going to scoot this shelving unit even closer to the front of the barn here. And like yesterday, we are going to be increasing the amount of time by another 2 hours. So today, day 5, my plants are going to be exposed to the wind, to the sun, to the rain, whatever comes, for 10 hours of the day. So they are getting very, very close to what it would be like if I had planted them out in the garden. So after 10 hours, I'm going to close the door again. I'm going to put them in the protection of the house or a shop, whatever, overnight until the next day. Okay, it's day 6 of the hardening off process. As you guessed it, we are going to be increasing by 2 hours the amount of sun, shade, wind, rain, whatever comes, so that our plants are being exposed for 12 hours of the day. These plants are just getting conditioned to being out. So now that we have gone through the first 6 days of the hardening off process, generally what I do is I'm just going to be opening this door or even moving all these plants out indefinitely into the outdoors, maybe even into the garden there, just on the ground. And I'm only going to be moving them back indoors if the temperatures are going to be dropping below 0. I'm going to be watching them for a few more days. If I see on the forecast that the temperatures are looking like they're going to be above 0 at night, this is where I'm going to be stopping my hardening off process at day 6. If from days 6 to, let's say, 14, it looks like it's still going to be dipping below 0, I'm probably just going to repeat this process every morning. I'm going to open the door, leave them there all day. Once the nighttime temperatures cool off, I'm going to shut the door. Or, like I said, if you don't have an outside shed to do this in, you would just be bringing it back into your house, wherever you are keeping your plants at night. I hope you found this helpful. Hardening off, like I said, is one of these things that I'm not very faithful at. I start out strong, and then as time goes by, I start to forget about them, and you know what? They're usually not worse for wear. So, but if you're starting out and you are wanting to learn how to harden off your plants, I hope that you have found this video helpful. So as I mentioned earlier, we had a ton of rain in the forecast, and I knew I really wanted to get this job done. So I really didn't take the phone and record as I was going, as far as telling you what I was doing. So that's what I'm going to do now. So one of the first things I like to do when I'm trying to figure out how I want the bed to go is actually to take out a garden hose and just to lay it on the ground, and you can move it around, see what looks good. And then once I have the shape that I'm going for, I take my edger. This is such a handy tool, and I just go about an inch or two away from the garden hose, and then I start creating an edge following along the garden hose. I love this edger. If you are interested, I will maybe put a link in the bottom in the description box below if you are just starting out and you're looking for a garden edger. Anyways, so I went 1 to 2 inches away from the garden hose, as you can see here. And then because I'm doing the no-dig method, I'm not going to worry about getting all the grass out. I'm really just concerned about creating a good edge. Then I went inwards about 6 inches from where I created that edge, and I just followed along that line, so that in the end I basically had a 6-inch wide strip all along the edge of the new garden bed. And because I'm doing the no-dig method, I am not concerned about getting all the grass out. I just really want to make a good edge to start with. So once I had that long strip, I basically went back in, going opposite, so perpendicular to the 2 lines that I had made at first, so that I could take out the pieces in smaller chunks. And that worked really, really well. I was hoping to get the whole bed with the cardboard and the mulch laid this day, but I ran out of daylight and the rains were coming, so I opted out to just putting the cardboard down and then just weighting down that cardboard with some extra pieces of sod until I could get back to it in the following week. But this way, the grass that it is in the garden is covered, so that when the rain comes, it won't be taking root. It's got the cardboard on it, and I will just simply go back another day and make sure that I top dress it all with some mulch. Anyways, this is the start of the Sunrise Garden edition. I'd love it if you would follow along if you're interested, and I will see you in the next one.